going to be very, very difficult for me to be able to invite everyone back when I can. But Golden Egg Fryer, he's done a pretty tidy sector once, but still, it's a 19.5. He's got a bit of traffic in the way of SLR Teddy, but Teddy should get out of the way, and it's given Golden Egg Fryer a little bit of a tow. So it's actually probably worked out quite well for him that Teddy was in front of him, because he's just got 2 corners left, but they are 2 very, very different corners, but 2 of the most difficult corners on the track. As Golden Egg Fryer slides his car nicely through the hairpin. He's now going to go up towards the line to finish his lap. He's had a couple of laps on the mediums, so they're not going to be great at the beginning of the race, but how's this going to be? Oh, he loses it big time out the final corner, and yeah, that's lost him a lot of time as he goes P9. I'm sure he would have been up maybe by where Dolphin was, for example, had he not made that mistake, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's very easy to make those mistakes in Canada. As Teddy is now on a lap on the softs. And if this continues, he push Hypers out of the session, so oh, Teddy invalidates, so it's going to really compromise him, as if he wants to still set a lap on the softs. He's going to have to have quite a high amount of wear on his tyres at the start of the race. And but I do think Teddy will probably be the first person to set a lap still, as he's going to be going around and trying again. Yep. Here comes Teddy once again, starting his lap. Very, very crucial he gets this on the board, as otherwise he'll start from P14. Has to go very, very tight, this Teddy. Oh, as he brushes the wall in the first chicane. It's not going to do him too many favours, especially if he's picked up a little bit of damage. Alpe's done 20.8, so that's made a bit of a mistake in the first sector as Alpe. As Teddy's still looking pretty quick. Let's have a look at the best laps so far, and everyone's best laps, with the exception of Massey in the top 10, has been on a set of mediums. Or can Teddy manage? He goes P3. As our Lofty is trying a lap on the mediums at the moment as well. As Leah puts himself P3. Yeah, Lofty's lap, I think this should be good enough to usurp Golden Egg Fryer's time and get himself into the top 10. It is, he goes P4, and that is Lofty going to be through. And the interesting thing now is that drivers who have set lap times on the mediums, who are going to be out of the session at the moment, you may as well go on softs here, because it doesn't hurt you that much. Especially if it's raining. And, well, so many people in the top 10 are doing laps on the mediums, so if you go on the mediums and you're starting P11, P12, P13, it actually turns out that that's going to be more of a hindrance, because you're going to be on the same strategy as everyone else. You can't do the undercut or anything. As Charlie puts himself into P6 on the softs. That puts Barlow in danger. I think Arlo's going to be knocked out. Here he is, as Alpe goes P5 on the mediums. He's done quite a few laps on them, but pretty tidy effort. Now we've got Hyper, Zach is Beast, and Golden Egg Fryer and Jamie Menz just about to do laps on the softs. At the moment, Menz will be knocked out, so Menz will need lap time. Unless, of course, he elects to start P11 or P12 on a fresh set of mediums. As Hypers is slightly up in his time so far, so sure he'll be able to put in a decent effort as Golden Egg Fryer is behind him. And it said he's gone purple through sector 1, so be decent. That's what Hyper's managing through the middle sector. He's 6/10 up, so as it stands, that will send him through. And that puts someone like Dolphin in danger as well if Golden Egg Fry's on a quick one as well. Menz has decided to back out of it. No, Menz ran out of time, sorry. He did not make it to the flag, so it's just about Golden Egg Fryer and SLR Hypers. Can SLR Hypers usurp Jaylee Menz and send him out of qualifying? He's going to cut towards the line now, and yes he can. He does a 109.9. What about Golden Egg Fryer? He's through as well. So that is Menz and Dolphin out. Two drivers who looked very, very quick, it must be said. And they're out along with Barlow as well. So, and this is interesting, only 4 people have set laps on mediums in Q2 who have made it through. So it's going to be unbelievably varied in terms of strategy. So yes, the 5 casualties are, well, the 4 casualties, sorry, are Dolphin, Menz, Barlow and Zach. And SLR Charlie has made it through into Q3 on his first ever appearance in Division 2. As can I please have the top 3 predictions for quali? Yeah, Barlow on the mediums here. Yeah, probably wanted to stick with the mediums, but of course the issue is now is that they've stuck with the mediums, but they have 4 medium runners who have got through into Q3 and are going to have track position on them. So it's a risky call here, as last night showed that the soft medium versus the medium soft versus the medium medium to the rain, there wasn't really that much difference between them. As Bennett still performed very, very well doing the soft to the medium. As yeah, Dolphin, yeah, it's a bit of a shock that he's out, I agree, but starting P11 on fresh tyres, on fresh mediums or fresh softs, depending on which one he chooses, could work out, and Dolphin could be one to look out for the race. As Gregors is saying, Massey, Alped, Charlie, top 3. And personally, I reckon Massey, Jack Mull, I reckon, is looking pretty quick as well. Although, as we've established, he only has 1 fresh set of tyres for Q3. And I don't know about Teddy to get a top. No, I'm going about Lofty to get a top 3. As Lofty is the first person to start a lap here. So here we go. Q3 is now away as Lofty is coming up towards the start finish line. Turn 1 brakes a bit early, but still gets the car rotated through nicely. He goes down to second for a bit of extra rotation before short shifting up to third and then fourth out of turns 2 and 3. First chicane lets it take in P5. That's given him quite a smooth run through it. He's now approaching the second chicane. Down into third to get as much turn in as possible, and then you've got a short shift up through the gears until you go onto this back straight. 3 DRS straights here, of course. As Lofty gets the car turned in nicely through the third chicane. He's just about to round off his lap, 41.7 through the first 2 sectors. As he does the hairpin very, very nicely. A little bit of rear locking, but that would have helped him slide around the corner quite nicely. As he's now approaching the final chicane. Lofty knows it's a relatively tidy lap so far, but I think his soft laps he did in Q1 were better. But he's going to cross the line, and it's a 109.8. It's a pretty solid initial time from Lofty. And what can Leo manage behind him? It's a 110 flat, so Leo just a couple of tenths down on Lofty. What can Golden Egg Fryer and Massey in the Williams cars manage? Massey's looked quick all session. Can he keep this up with a provisional pole lap time? He's crossing the line, and it's a 109.4. As Golden Egg Fryer validated in the final chicane. But here comes Hypers. Toss himself into P4. The next driver is Jack Mull, who's also looked quick, and wow, it's a 109.1 from Jack Mull to get provisional pole position. Look at that. But here comes Charlie, of course, on his Division 2 debut. Can he get himself in the thick of it? He's going to come towards the line now and just beats Hypers. It's a 110.3 for Charlie. Scarborger is going again after his invalidation. Oh, as Lofty, I've completely missed that. He does a 109.4 as well, because goes P3 with back-to-back laps. That's a cracking effort from Lofty. As Klutzy is celebrating Jack Mull's provisional pole time. As Scarborger is slowest of all so far with 110.4. Unfortunate, he was unable to get a decent lap. Decent lap relative to what I think he did in Q2 on the mediums. As here comes Teddy, who was my other pick for a potential top 4 or 5. Goes a little deep in the second chicane. You can see he's taken that outside curb, and it's going to compromise his traction here, Teddy. So yeah, he goes a bit wide through the third chicane, and I think that might be Teddy's lap pretty much done and dusted, although he's still looking similar pace to Charlie, so could potentially get P5 here, although I'm sure there's time in that for Teddy. As he's now coming towards the final chicane. It's Teddy, how does he take it? Oh, he absolutely sends it and nearly totals his car, blimey. But that is an invalidation from Teddy. And really puts him under a bit of pressure for the rest of the session. As Massey is out now on a second set of softs to try and usurp Jack Mull for that provisional pole time. As Golden Egg Fryer is now just finishing his lap. He's done quite a few laps on these tyres, but has it bothered him? Oh, he just beat Scarborger, although he's only P7. Still a pretty decent effort from Golden Egg Fryer on those older tyres. And clearly Massey going out in the middle of this session. Clearly wants a bit of track time, he wants a bit of screen time to be able to prove that he can beat Jack Mull's provisional pole time. He'll need to find 3.5 tenths, will Massey, so it'll be no mean feat if he does it, but here we go with the Williams. As he comes through the final chicane to start his lap now, elects to start his lap on the left-hand side of the track as Massey takes a decent bit of curve through turn 1, flows the car through nicely. Looks relatively smooth on the exit, the first couple of corners. He's now approaching the first chicane. Very tight on track limits there, but he manages to get through unscathed. He's 2.5 tenths up on his lap. Oh, as Massey has to do a bit of a correction at the second chicane. Definitely would have lost him a bit of time. Oh, as he goes quite deep in the third chicane and has invalidated his lap. So he's going to need to go again, is Massey. So now the primary focus is going to be Alpe. Currently, of course, P9 and without a time, but if you have a look, that gap between P5 and P8 could quite easily slot in that top 5 originally. As Alpe starting his lap, oh, and yeah, he's immediately invalidated, so it's going to really compromise him. So we now focus back onto Massey for attempt number 2 of his attempt at trying to get pole position. Turn 1 takes a decent bit of curve on the inside and hooks the car through nicely. A little bit of a twitch on the back end, but looks relatively fine, as I don't think he's got the first sector hooked up as well as his previous lap, but he is still a 10th up, so obviously not too bad. Does not make that same mistake in the second chicane as he did on his last effort, as he's now coming through towards the end of sector 2. Avoids that curve, of course, that he invalidated on, but still looks pretty smooth, and he is 3.5 tenths up his Massey, so unless something drastically wrong goes on in the final chicane, this should be good to at least get close to Jack Mull. So now we're going to get on the racing line and absolutely send it, and looked like he went slightly deep, but it still looked pretty decent. Tugging the wall as tightly as he can, and he just misses out on that pole position by 2/100ths of a second. So Jack Mull, at the moment, is still good. As Leah invalidates on his effort. So who's the next person to set a lap? It will be SLR Charlie, who's currently in P5. Oh, as Charlie has actually forgotten to turn on his ERS, so yeah, that's going to have lost him quite a bit of time, and I think that's pretty much his lap over as Golden Egg Fries invalidated. So can Teddy manage? Oh, he's invalidated on his out lap, so it's not great. Massey is going to run out of fuel, so won't be able to set one himself. The next person to set a lap, I think, will be Hypers. Sector 1, he's slightly up in his time. That's all he needs to beat Charlie, so but I mean, he's done a 109 in Q2, so I think he'll be aiming for higher. Second sector here. Perhaps a little cautious on entry, but it does allow him to get a pretty smooth exit. You kind of got to send it round here to get the best times here, and yeah, he's only about a 10th up, so needs to find a bit more time if he wants to challenge Leah's time specifically, as the top 3 are well clear. That's Lofty has started his one. But here we go, Hyper's going through the final chicane. Looks like he's navigated that pretty well. He's coming up towards the line now, and it's a 109.9. He does find that time in the final sector. He puts himself into P4, does Hypers. Sure, he'll be pretty happy with that effort. As I'm going to go on board with SLR Lofty, who has invalidated his lap, and I think that might be the end of his qualifying. It's Golden Egg Fries a 10.5 up from the first sector. It's so close here that he could quite easily gain those 4 or 5 tenths and put himself potentially ahead of Hypers, as Teddy, I think, has binned it. But I do believe that the Golden Egg Fryer is the next person to set a lap. Charlie has not improved on his effort. Of course, we did say that he was not, he's forgotten to turn on his ERS. What can Golden Egg Fryer manage? Absolutely sends it through the final chicane. Looks pretty decent. As he goes P6, so does usurp Charlie's time. As Scarborger has lost it. But Alpe's on a pretty decent time. What about Jack Mull? Jack Mull's backed out. I think his pole position should be safe. But here comes Alpe. Oh, goes a bit twitchy. That might compromise him. But it does still look pretty decent. And yeah, that did lose him a bit of time. He's still P5. Just behind his fellow Division Q and Division Steward SLR Hypers. But I'm sure he's maybe searching for a little bit more than that. P5 still a solid effort though. But Jack Mull is going to gain pole position. A Scarborger, of course, is not going to improve. His 109.1 he did at the beginning of the session was enough. But Massey in P2 is going to have that pretty decent start, of course, on the soft compound tyres. It's all to play for. Lofty in P3, also starting on the medium, same as Jack Mull, as well in this race as well. And yes, it should be a classic. Jack Mull, I think he has had a pole position before this season. I think him and Massey have shared the front row before this season, so it's no surprise to see him up there. And you know what? Let's compare their sector times to see where Jack Mull got his pole position time. If you have a look, it was that first sector. Yes, Massey had a really good first sector on his first attempt on those last set of tyres. But could not replicate it in the second part. Lost that couple of tenths to Jack Mull. And that was that. That was all the time he needed to claim that pole position, Jack. Great effort from the pair of them. As we're entering the 5-minute break, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break myself, so catch you all in a little bit as the cars are lining up for the grid. And I'm back, and no better time than the 5-minute break to mention our charity partner, Get Well Gamers, of course. They are a charity whose primary focus is making sure that disadvantaged children, especially terminally ill children, get the joy of video games. Please see links in our website, and if you wish to help them out, then that'd be grand. There'll be lots of kids who will be very, very thankful for that. So we're getting on to this race, so can we have a top 3 prediction for the race? It's soft, medium, it's medium, soft, medium, the top 5, so as it could be kind of intriguing to see how this rain plays. I've had a little bit of a photo in the Williams chat of what the rain is looking like, so... And I think it is a bit different to the rain we saw last night, which did absolutely pummel it down. And we're just waiting on the grid to start this one. But yes, 5-minute break is over. Let's get on with the race. Hopefully I'll stop being as much of a bot and actually... like, don't leave massive pauses between... my sense there's always someone has not got off the grid yet. That is... I believe that's Golden Egg Fryer. He's disqualified from the session, so... He's not yet back as Golden Egg Fryer, so... As I'm hearing Golden Egg Fryer, he's got pedal issues. That's... Oh god, Charlie Scar, Teddy Dolphin, Men's Barlow. Well, watch out. Could potentially be scary. I guess make sure that you have the car make sure you have your game paused. Oh, as Men's spun on the formation lap. That's... I mean, if I'm being honest, that's classic Men's. Although I can't say much about my spins as well. Men's does lose it. As everyone is just lining up, but yeah. But yeah. You might have to pause the game, let your AI do the start, or maybe pull off on a controller or something if you're still having issues, because obviously you don't want to be stationary on the grid with an unghosted car. But hopefully you can get your issue sorted as we're getting on the 5 lights. They're counting down now. Decent view from Massey to be able to send us away. And it looks like he's got a bit of a better start on the soft compound tyres. Oh, his Golden Egg Fryer, his car's caused absolute havoc, and there's a VSC already. Oh, actually, no, there's a full safety car. That is absolute carnage already. I did say there'd be chaos, and yeah, I mean, that's really unfortunate, and Golden Egg Fry is out of this race, and drivers like Charlie have no wing. But yeah, now the question is, what are the soft runners going to do? Are they going to pit? Are they going to stay out? I'd say it's probably far too early to think about pitting, because even on the soft compound tyres, you can take them a decent way. You'd basically be saying, oh, I'd rather start on the mediums if you're going to pit now. And yeah, these drivers, they should all be staying out, apart from the ones who need to pit for damage, as it is only lap 1, of course. Oh, I think a couple of people clouted the wall there. And yes, Halo, Scarborger, Teddy and Charlie are all in the pits, so have to change their tyres. 5 casualties here due to the lap 1 collision. But of course, the 4 other drivers are still back in the race. And I'd say this initial safety car here potentially helps the soft runners go a little bit longer on the tyres, of course, so... But of course I do believe that Massey and Jack Moore were side by side when they were battling it out, so perhaps in the battle such as that's potentially cost them on their soft compound tyres. As if we have a look at the position changes, the big gainers are... Jaylee Menz is up 5 positions. He managed to circumnavigate the chaos ahead of him and avoided it and gained a few positions. He does like to gain positions off the start, just Jaylee Menz. ARL Tooman, of course, up 6 with the 4 people who got damage in Golden Egg Fryer, being 5 of those positions, of course. And Alpe, on the medium, surprisingly, gained a position on both Lofty and Hypers. So, a pretty cracking start from Alpe as well. And yeah, I agree, yeah, force feedback issues and stuff like that, yeah, it's a real shame in this game, and the game is pretty much unplayable for a lot of people, and these things can happen and are fairly commonplace on the F1 2020 game now. As the safety car is in this lap, so Jack Mull will guide us on to the restart. Got to make sure his tyres are nice and warm, of course. The softs do heat up more easily than the mediums, of course, as they have a much lower operating working temperature as well. Scar Borger's got a penalty for a collision with Teddy, so it goes from bad to worse for those drivers. As Jack's still not gone yet, so it's going to cause chaos, and oh, that's Hypers who's got damage. As Jack Mull sets us away. Lear, I don't know whether he's overtaken Hypers just before the line, but Hypers are going to be really slow with that damage, and him and Lear have made a bit of contact. But here comes Barlow up the inside of Jack, and he's going to get past Hypers pretty quickly as well, unless Hypers, of course, compromises him with that damage. Hopefully Hypers gets out of the way nicely of a few drivers. Oh, as I see Tooman come out in the barriers as well as he goes and nearly... Oh, there's absolute carnage. Someone else has gone off wide. And yes, but meanwhile, Alpine's lost the position that he gained at the start as Lofty goes through to P3. Yeah, Hypers, of course, with that damage is... Yeah, he's really suffering. He's just letting everyone through. Fair play. Obviously, damage and chicanes with drivers without damage ahead of you is a real issue sometimes. As Lear and Menz are going side by side, Menz gained another couple of positions while we were watching, so cracking start for him. As here comes Massey on Jack Mull. Soft tyres are working well on the restart, but he can't get through. He has to back out on the outside and wait for another day. DRS isn't going to be enabled for a couple of laps, of course, so he will need to bide his time as Teddy's in the pits as well, presumably with damage. As Tooman has got past Acids, who just lets him through. As Tooman's gained 10 positions already, and we're not even at the end of the second full racing lap. That's a great start for the McLaren driver. Clearly those softs working well initially, and I'm sure he can maybe get right back up there in the pit stop phases as well. As now JD Menz is going to look at Alpe. Of course, you've got to bear in mind Alpe is on 4-lap-old mediums at the end of Q2, and JD Menz is going to have a fresh set. So maybe this is going to be like taking candy from a baby. Although Lear looking like he's going to be a bit more on the attack towards Menz than Menz is going to be on the attack towards Alpe, as DRS is now enabled. Oh, as Hicklin takes a lot of curb, and that's nearly allowed Dolphin to just go into the back of him, so Dolphin, of course, did have a bit of issues at lap 1, and currently stuck in a bit of traffic is the AlphaTauri driver. And we know he's quick as well. So, really not been the best race for Dolphin. As I'm now going to go on board with JD Menz as he's still looking for a move on Alpe. And it's kind of all aboard the Alpe train at the moment. You look at just the number of cars in that train, that is a beautiful shot that we've got. But one of them is JD Menz. They're on a similar amount of ERS. And Menz is going to go around the outside. Oh, I couldn't even miss that. Massey's taken the lead. I thought he might have been too far back to make a move, but he has made it. Oh, no, Lofty is out. Oh no, Alpe's gone straight on. He's forgotten that there's no ghosting, and wow, Tooman instantly comes flooding into the pits. But he did have wing damage anyway, but well, that is really unfortunate. Lofty lost it out of the final corner, and obviously without ghosting, that kind of thing can happen. As Tooman, well, it's kind of just come at a perfect time, the safety car, as he was able to change his wing and go on to another set of softs. Going for the hyper-aggressive strategy is Tooman. As Alpe, with that wing damage, of course, that he sustained from hitting Lofty, just letting as many drivers pass as he possibly can. But that's really unfortunate for Lofty, as he was running in a really good position. But yes, now I do expect Massey to hop into the pits. Suddenly Scar Borger, who was nowhere, is now up into P7. But yeah, Massey should be pitting on these softs as they're coming near the end of their life anyway. As Noe stays out. But Barlow is going to pit on his mediums. Yeah, it's an interesting call from Massey. I guess it would lose him quite a lot of track position. And the softs, he obviously feels are good to take a bit longer into this race. As Barlow's putting us at softs. Yeah, it's an interesting call. He would have probably come out at about P11, which is probably why he's decided to make this call. As Alpe has retired in the pits. But now drivers to look out for in this restart. Tooman and Barlow on their fresh soft compound tyres. Ahead of everyone else who's on the older tyres. 2 safety cars already in this race. And yeah, Tooman and Barlow, they're going to be absolutely flying. As Hypers has pit on another fresh set of softs, and it's going to be looking like he's going to be right back into the race as well. As we have a look at penalties, we've got 5 people with 5-second penalties, so all of those are going to have to serve them in the pit stops, of course, when they eventually have to put on maybe a set of inters, maybe another set of dries, depending on when the rain comes. But anyway, it is Massey who leads, followed by Jack Mull. Of course, Massey is on those soft compound tyres. They will be able to cool down, though, nicely, so they shouldn't be too worn, as they've only really done about 3 racing laps. Anyway, safety car should be in at the end of this lap as Hyper should catch up, so that'll mean we can get back into this race. Absolutely frantic start, and there's no real surprise at that, to be honest. As Hypers has got a corner cutting penalty under the safety car. That's not what you want. The Hypers has caught up though, so that is good. As we now get ready for the restart. Warming up his tyres quite a bit is Massey, and it is starting to get dark, so could the rain be coming imminently? Not seen any sign of it yet. And Massey has decided to go now, and he's caught Jack Mull napping big time. He's gained 8 tenths already as they're going through the final chicane. And we are back away. ZH Ashley picked up a time penalty, but it's looking like he wants to maybe think about a move on SLR Jack. As further down, Charlie's in a pretty good position with no penalties, as his yellow flag is set to 1, and that is Acids out. Acids has lost it, and Acids is in the wall. That is our 4th retirement today. It's really unfortunate from Acids, as he was running in a pretty good position before that. And I think I should just stop mentioning a driver's name, as they seem to have some kind of accident whenever I do. As Tooman has begun to make those moves on the softs. Down the inside of Halo for Pete. for P9, and Barlow follows Halo for P10 as well. So here they come. They're going to have mountains more grip than the others ahead of them. As I can see, Massey and Jack Mull are beginning to open out the gaps to these guys as well. As Massey's still going on those softs, so it's a pretty mighty effort from him on those. Of course, as I said, we've added those safety cars lap as well, so it's not really 11 lap old softs. As here comes the rain. I've just seen the kind of lightning flash, I guess you could call it. As Zacchaeus Beast is going down the inside of Halo as well, obviously on those fresher compounds, on those fresher tyres. And maybe that explains why Massey has elected to stay out here on those softs. That makes a lot of sense now. But Tooman and Barlow are going to be absolutely flying, and Tooman's made a move there. As has Barlow on Charlie. Charlie just lets them go, obviously, on his older mediums. But is now dueling it out with Zacchaeus Beast. Zacchaeus Beast has to tuck in behind him. But still without a penalty is Charlie, so looking good on that front for the Aston Martin driver in his debut Division 2 race. And I reckon we can only be a couple of laps away from the time where you would switch onto those intermediate compound tyres. As Tooman is now flying. Has made it past Dolphin as well. Zacchaeus Beast picks up a penalty. Dolphin is not gonna fight back on Tooman, as when he knows that those soft compound tyres on the McLaren driver are just going to be way too fast. But Barlow's got a good exit and is going to go up the inside of Dolphin now. And Dolphin has to back out of it. Tooman and Barlow are making some big moves here on those soft compound tyres, and it's a very smart decision from them. As they are going to be seconds quicker when it keeps on getting wetter. As Caitlin taps the wall a bit there, so it's going to give Tooman even more incentive. Caitlin's not got much ERS. Tooman's got fresher tyres and shouldn't be too difficult. And what should also not be too difficult, as Massey's tyres are definitely giving up the ghost here, is Jack Mull going up the inside of him. Jack Mull takes the lead. And I was saying, yeah, Tooman, relatively straightforward move on Hicklin as well. Of course, on those soft compound tyres. As Barlow has now gone past Hicklin as well. And this rain's a bit weird because, I mean, it's coming down, but I don't think it's coming down enough for intermediates to be needed anytime soon. And as there's yellow flag, who's that? I think that is SSR Halo. Has had a bit of a spin. He's going to have to wait until Teddy gets past him, and then he can eventually right his car around the right way and get back on with the race. This Tooman's going to probably make a move on Scarborga here, and look, this is getting wetter and wetter. Probably only about a lap or so away from potentially being in intermediate conditions. As is anyone going to pit? Hicklin is. Hicklin is going to be the first person to gamble on a set of intermediates, I think. Of course, once the rain fully hits, they will be seconds quicker. Oh no, he goes onto the softs. Sorry. As there's a yellow flag, and I think that's Dolphin has had a bit of a spin as well. Dolphin was in the points, but track conditions. And he's just paid the price for not reading those poor track conditions, and Yep has made that mistake. As I'm having a look at Tooman's sector splits, and well, he's only losing a couple of seconds on off his best time, so... So I don't think it's time yet. And what do you do if you're someone like Massey? He's going to come into the pits now. He's taken those softs 14 laps. As is JD Menz. But what tyres do you put on? Do you put on a fresh set of softs? I don't think it's time for the wet tyres. Let's see. Massey has gone for a set of medium compound tyres and a wing change. So that explains why he was a bit slower, of course, but JD Menz has gone on to the intermediate tyres as well, and yeah, this is it's turning into quite a intriguing period of the race. This is the yellow flag in sectors 2 and 3. That's a car off. I think that's Jack Mull. Jack Mull has spun on his medium compound tyres. SLR Jack has taken the lead. Jack Mull has no wing here, and it's suddenly going to be a prey from Tooman. And yes, I think it is now time for intermediate tyres. These drivers are really struggling here, and as JD Menz timed it perfectly, in saying that, he's not quicker than Dolphin by that much. Dolphin actually got past him this lap. And Jack is coming in. Tooman's staying out. He's trying to ride out the rain period on his soft compound tyres. He's gone from last to first so far in this race. Barlow's doing the same. Scar Borger's riding out on his hards. That's bold as well. Charlie's also staying out on his mediums as well, but... Oh wow, where is Menz going to be in all this? Where's Massey going to be in all of this? There's a yellow flag in sector 3. I think that's Teddy. As Menz has jumped Jack, actually. Menz has jumped Jack. And I really can't read what this race is going to be doing at all at the moment. I mean, Menz does now look like he is quicker than Dolphin, but Jack behind him looking pretty quick as well. Of course, is it going to dry back up again? Yeah, I'll quickly just find Hyper's gamer card here and get him back in the session. There we are. His AI's put him onto the intermediate tyres, so that's not all bad. As Tooman has now eventually decided to come in, as has Barlow, as has Scar, and I do expect everyone else to follow behind for a set of intermediate tyres. And I wonder what Massey will do here. Is he going to stay out? He is. He knows it's going to dry up, but could this be inspired or could this be madness? Everyone else is going on to intermediate tyres, and I do think Tooman's going to be in the effective lead of the race on the intermediates. It's going to be close with Menz, though. But no, Tooman is the lead runner on these intermediates now. Absolutely astonishing. Everyone is on inters except for Massey, who's trying to, as I said, ride these conditions out, but once it's time for inters, you'll be absolutely nowhere on those mediums, Massey. He's going to be... He's going to maybe end up dropping down to last before he's able to get in the pits, as JD Menz is now going to get past as well. But I mean, this is astonishing. Tooman's gone from last to first, and it has to be said, that is entirely on pure merit and pure strategic decision making. And Massey, I mean, he's surely got to think about boxing now. I mean, he's got no other option really, and yet he has come into the pits now for those intermediate tyres, presumably. As there's yellow in sector 3, that is Hicklin. Hicklin has gone into the barrier on his intermediate tyres. As Hypers has crashed as well. Hypers is out, and there's a full safety car. There is a full safety car here. And, well, that has added some more spice into this race. It is supposed to dry up. And does anyone risk coming in for a set of dry compound tyres under the safety car as Dolphin has sped under it? If it is due to dry up, then that could be worth a go. Certainly if I'm someone like Massey, if I'm someone like Teddy, from someone like Dolphin, I think about boxing for the softs here, as it is supposed to dry up at some point. But of course, if you're someone like Tooman, then, well, you've got this position, and they obviously have knowledge of when it is going to dry up, but obviously feels like it's not worth that gamble to try and predict the weather again. And come into the pits for a set of dries before it does dry up. But I mean, this race is just absolutely bonkers. As Massey, I mean, after making a couple of wrong strategy calls, if he'd have got onto the intermediates, he would be leading this race still, because he was ahead of Tooman. But he's made that blunder and is down in P10. He's the guy who was in P2 at the start of the race. And of course, the pole sitter, Jack Mull, after that accident, has dropped down to P5. So yeah, absolutely chaos here, and it won't be long before all of these drivers have to pit again. And one thing I'll say about this race so far is drivers have made mistakes by themselves. But from what I've seen, the battling I've seen, all of this I've seen, there's been so much chaos. But I mean, the driving from some of these drivers has been absolutely fantastic. The racecraft has been so far brilliant, and it's been chaotic in terms of just the number of drivers who are just all over the place in their grid positions. I mean, ARL Tooman started in last place and is leading, so that's one example. And JD Men started in 12th and is in second. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a chaotic mix of weather, of strategic difficulty, and of just the ability to not make mistakes. And that's just meant that, well, the grid's just been turned on its head. Of course, Barlow did the same strategy as Tooman as well, of course, don't you forget, and Barlow's in P4, so Barlow's been brilliant so far as well. As Maggie said, yeah, it is drying up, and that's what I was saying is, does anyone go, you know what, I've got nothing to lose under the safety car, let's box for a set of medium compound tyres which would go to the end of the race. If you get it right, you gain a pit stop on everyone. But of course, that is a lot of if, buts, maybes. As this race now is practically entirely going to come down to what time do these drivers pit. That's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to who manages the mix to the switch to dries the best if it is going to dry up. As nobody is risking a switch to dries under the safety car. understandable, as it is still raining and there is really no sign of it drying up as of yet. As Hicklin, he said he'd be lucky to get a point, but at the moment you have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers ahead of him have penalties, and he doesn't have one yet. Could potentially be on for a few points, despite being nearly a lap down a couple of laps ago. Hey, it's Division 2 he could win. Would you? Could be absolutely anything could happen. As now Hicklin has now caught up. The safety car will come in. Tooman will lead us away. And at some point, as I said, we will have it drying up. If you have a look at the stops, he's made 2 stops and has leaded. Men's has only made the 1 from, of course, mediums to inters and is running pretty well himself. But how will these different drivers cope with these intermediate conditions? And how will he cope from with a potential switch to dries? Tooman's got a pretty decent safety car restart and has already pulled out a second on men's as Halo picks up a penalty. As continuing on, Dolphin has lost a position to Teddy. Teddy's gone up the inside there. And Tooman, I do expect him to be quite strong in the intermediate conditions. As his yellow flag is set to 1, and that is Hicklin. Hicklin is round. Really not liking these conditions is Hicklin. As back up front, Tooman is now beginning to open up the gap even more as there's yellow flag, and that is Dolphin. Dolphin is out of the race. Dolphin is out. Will that require another safety car or not? Hicklin will certainly be hoping it is, as he moves up into P13, but Dolphin, of course, had that drive-through, and I know he's not a fan of the wet conditions, and has clearly just come a cropper due to those wet conditions. As Charlie, I think, has made a little bit of an off on the exit of the hairpin. As Jack Moore's now going to go down the inside of Barlow. Jack Moore trying to make up those positions, and ooh, a bit of contact with Barlow, but I mean, I think that's natural for that kind of corner. As Massey and Teddy pick up penalties, but yeah, Jack Moore gets past Barlow. They can now try and chase after the positions he, of course, lost due to that spin and the loss of front wing. You can see Tooman is very, very delicate on the throttle, but is gradually just opening up the gap to men's, and that's what I was saying. He's always been pretty good in these wet conditions. And now there's a 2.5 second lead over JD Menz, who's still running very, very well with no penalties, so as is Leah, so doing a solid job, the pair of them. So now Teddy is going to think about making a move on Charlie. And the more I'm looking, just the more the rain is easing up completely, and there's almost beginning to be a dry line forming here, and I think the rain has almost stopped. So any time now, maybe next lap even, we can see some drivers come in for a set of dry compound tyres. It does definitely dry up a lot quicker than real life here, of course. Of course, qualifying earlier, it took quite a while for things to probably dry up for drivers to go onto dry compound tyres. And yes, it was a Alpha 1-2, and Maxwell got 3rd in Canada last season in Division 3, that is right. It's a mental race. as Halo has gone out onto the mediums, and I said that it would be relatively close until people went onto dries. And there it is, he is the first driver to go onto the dries. I don't quite think it's close enough for people to think about it just yet, but it's not a million miles away at all. And they definitely will have to go onto the dries for the end of the race. Toomey, of course, is benefiting by being a driver who had no laps in quali, as DRS has now been enabled. Jack and Leah have come in at the perfect moment, as has Massey, as has Teddy. And if DRS is enabled here, then these guys can gain big time. Leah's gone to a set of mediums, Jack's on to a set of softs. Teddy is having to double stack behind him. Massey's gone for the mediums as well. Comes out just behind Jack, but here we go. How is Leah's pace now? Because if he can have a good outlap here, then he could gain a whole number of positions. It's absolutely pivotal. I'm going on board with Leah, and let's have a look at his gap to Charlie, which is the important one. If he's quicker than Charlie, then I think it will be good enough. And yes, he is closing in. I think he needs to use a bit more of that ERS, to be honest, to try and gain as much time as he possibly can. But I do expect Toomey, Menz, Jack, Mull, Barlow, Scar, Borgo, Zach is Beast, Charlie to come in at the end of this lap. Let's go on board with Toomey. Yep, in he comes. And in comes JD Menz, and Jack Mull's going to have to queue behind him here. No, he's not, because he's got to stay out. One more lap, and that could be a really bad decision, as Leah's gained a couple of seconds on Charlie already. So, as Toomey's gone on to a set of softs, as is JD, as is pretty much all of them except for Scar Borga. I'm staying on board with Leah here because he has pitted that lap earlier, and I think he's got a pretty decent undercut here. Is he going to undercut JD Menz even? No, he is not, but he is going to undercut Jack. And he's only going to undercut Barlow, so Leah is in P4 now. With, of course, Jack Mull, CGFC, needing to pit onto the dries this lap. He obviously had to double stack behind Menz otherwise, but he's going to lose so much time here, and yeah, could be in a bit of trouble for Jack Mull. So I'm pretty sure he should be coming in to for a set of softs at the end of this lap. It'd be silly not to, I think. As yes, Jack Mull eventually does. A couple of laps later than would have been ideal, come in for a set of soft compound tyres. As now a key battle here is Leah versus Barlow. Barlow, of course, pitted that lap later. Has a couple of penalties, but is on those soft compound tyres. He's thinking about shaping up a move on Leah, but has not managed it yet. Leah's tyres, of course, will be better come the end of the race than the softs, but initially you'd expect the drivers like Barlow and Jack to have the pace on him if Jack picks up another fine penalty. I think that's his second or third. As Cohen's winning Charlie on to stay close to this pack of cars who have penalties ahead of him. If we have a look at it, he's due to gain at least one position on Teddy, that's for certain. As Barlow really needs to get past Leah as soon as possible here, as Leah is going to be a bit slower on those mediums initially. Using a decent amount of ERS as Barlow, but at the moment Leah does seem to have him just about covered. As Barlow thinks about a little look, but can't make it, although there's a fantastic exit at the final chicane. They're going to go wheel to wheel here, Barlow and Leah. Barlow's going down the inside. They do make a little bit of contact, but Barlow takes that inside line and takes that corner and takes the position. JD Menz has picked up a penalty, as has Leah, so everyone apart from Tooman, Charlie and Hicklin have penalties. A late safety car here would really, really shake things up. We've had 3 safety cars so far, so there can be another one. As Teddy picks up about his 20th penalty of the race. I had a look, he had 12 seconds, so that's his 5th penalty, sorry. As Menz is struggling a bit relative to Barlow here. Barlow's got a decent bit of pace on these softs. He's going to think about trying a move at some point on Menz, I think. At some point soon. He had a good exit at the final corner last lap, but he had the same this lap. Oh, no, he doesn't. He picks up a penalty as Massey has muscled his way past Scarborga, but picked up a penalty in the process. As Barlow sets the fastest lap of the race. Thinks about a move on Jaylee Menz, but Jaylee Menz covers it off. As Jack Mull, after that later pit stop, sets the fastest lap of the race. So he's absolutely flying. Of course, in the freshest soft compound tyres of all of them. And out in front, Tooman, of course, with those no penalties, and a bit fresher tyres, I reckon, than at least a couple of the guys behind him, who obviously had to use the softs in qualifying. Tooman had another fresh set, of course, as he did not take part in qualifying, so but he's just managing the gap a bit here. Not pushing too hard, he's got no penalties and has a 4.8 second lead on the car behind, so it's looking pretty good for the McLaren driver at the moment. As Barlow's now going to have another go at JD Menz here. Oh, Barlow closes the door a bit on the braking zone and but still takes the position. Up into P2 is Barlow as he's trying to get the gap to potentially get a podium here. Leah's still struggling on his mediums. As Charlie now picks up a penalty, so that is everyone apart from ARL Tooman who has a penalty. But yes, the driver I'm now on board with is SLR Jack. Leah has hardly any ERS, and Jack has a decent bit of it. He's going to think about the move here. I think he's a bit too far back. But Leah's creating a bit of a train here, so maybe he's going to think about it. Oh no, he thinks about the move, but then makes contact into the braking zone. I think that's Hicklin off once again. As Menz is now staying with Barlow, interestingly, so Barlow could be on for a pretty solid result. As could Menz. As Menz and Barlow have kind of opened up the gap to Leah. As I said, Leah is struggling a bit, and Jack, I think he's got damage off the back of Leah. That's going to allow Massey to go through. And Massey is through. Jack is certainly got damage, I think. As there's yellow flag in sector 3, and that is Hicklin retiring in the pits. And here we are, there's just 4 laps remaining. I think it's pretty much the last opportunity at a safety car. There's yellow flag and SLR Jack has pitted. I suspected he has got damage. I think that must have been a warning for Menz, but looking at his gap to Leah might be good enough to still keep that position. And it's all about whether Menz and Barlow have more or less penalties than Liam, Massey, Scar-Borger, Zappa's Beast, Jack Mull behind them. Leah picks up another penalty, and that is going to be just another dent into his race. I mean, he's had a pretty solid race so far as Leah. Of course, pitted earlier on those mediums, but it does look like those soft compound tyres are working better in these conditions, and Leah is slowly being dropped as Zappa's Beast has gone on the inside of Scar-Borger, who's also on those mediums and picks up another penalty.